Okay, welcome back to the YKTR content studio for this is a bit of a different episode. It's more of a reaction video based off a news that broke on Wednesday, Mase, after we'd finished doing the YKTR sports show. And I want to focus and make sure that people that are watching this, that it's not a point the fingers, rah, rah, rah. For me, this is a bit of an educational video off the back of the Joseph Sua'ali'i news that is representing Samoa, which we'll get to soon, Mase. And then obviously the reaction from Paul Kent and the guys on NRL 360. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to Reedy. We were critical of you a couple of weeks ago with your take, but again, there's no egos here. We were, if we disagree with a comment, Mase, we're happy to say, all right, I disagree with you, but there's no pointing fingers and, ruling them out forever. I thought Reedy and Buzz in particular are really good. Braith, his job is to direct the conversation on there, but totally disagree with Paul Kent's take on this situation, the Joseph Sua'ali'i situation. And we'll get to that a little bit more, Mase. But first of all, like I said, I want to start off really positive to begin with. And because we didn't get the chance to talk about it, you've been in this situation yourself. You, at a young age, you represented Tonga in the World Cup in 2000. Just give what it meant for you, and then obviously off the back of the news for Joey in himself.
Yeah, I think I watched the whole show. I mean, I watched that little take, and I think just PK was way out of line. I don't think he's educated on this whole thing. When you got guys like Buzz, I think he's about 65, who seems to be more aware of everything with the Polynesian game. Reedy's going, come on, man, you're sort of way out of line. Come on. They're trying to pull him up because you got to understand this young kid, the sacrifices his parents, his grandparents have made to get him over, from them to come over to Australia, for the Sua'ali'i name to be here. They don't understand how powerful that is for this young kid to give them opportunity to put that family name and make everyone proud back in the islands. People don't understand how proud we are as people. He offended a whole community, a whole nation, the whole Polynesian community is offended. The amount of people that I've had my phone going, what the fuck is he talking about?
My phone was blowing up about us having to say something.
And I think you got to say something. So we're sitting here as brothers, you know what I mean? And we're representing the whole Polynesian community. We just want to educate you, mate. It's just these kids, they grow up in Australia regardless, but they have that Sua'ali'i name. You don't see many Aussies and everything getting their name tattooed on their back. Maybe now because a lot of Polynesians, we've got sleeves, we've got a name tattooed on our back. It's a proud thing to have, and to have your name back in the islands. It's massive. I think he misunderstood all that. His take on, I think the narrative was because he played fullback.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I've got a few other things.
Some things were just way out, and I was just what is he talking about? People saying, it's racist. And I'm like, this is not racist. This is just a person who's not educated on what we think. The game's dominated 60% of Polynesian.
It's changed.
It's changed, man. When I first started, I was in this predicament in 2000 World Cup. So New Zealand, this is coming from a person who could play for four nations.
Been there and lived it.
I've lived it. I know what Sua'ali'i's going through. You can play for New South Wales because you grow up wanting to play in the toughest arena. You want to play for Australia because that's the pinnacle, I think. Don't ever say that the Polynesian people are disrespecting the Australian jersey, because we look at that as the highest level. But to represent your family and Samoa and Tonga and Fiji, that's the first thing you want to do. Petro Sivanasiva did it in 2000. So did Lottie Takiri. I was in the Tongan side. We all played in the 2000 World Cup. And then we ascended into the Australian team.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So it meant the world to us to go over there and just to experience your culture, man, because we're brought up in Australia. We're not brought up in the islands. So you've got to go over there. You've got to be in camp. And that's why all these young kids, they're all gravitating towards Samoa, towards Tonga, towards all these things, because they want to get back in touch with their family name, with their roots, with the culture. It's so strong now. And we're very proud people. And for him to come on there and just sort of go, yeah, it's disrespectful. Mal should have rang him and this and that. He's been speaking to Mal.
Yeah.
He's been speaking to Matt Parry. So, get your facts right before you come out with some asinine comments like that. It's terrible, man, just to watch him, because he's a smart dude, PK. He just sort of dug himself a little bit deeper. But I ended up playing 3 tests for Tonga. Lottie's played for Fiji. Petro's played. We got offered to play. So me and Tamana Tahu, we got offered to play in the New Zealand team at that time.
The 2000 World Cup.
2000 World Cup. So I was in that predicament. I went, no, man, I want to play for Australia.
Yep. But you also want to play for Tonga first. But I also wanted
to play for Tonga first, but I want to play for the Blues. So some of us are lucky enough to be in a predicament and a position where we can choose. understand where the rules in the game, we're just playing to the rules of the game. He can play Origin, he can play for Australia, and he can play for Samoa. That's the rules. And he's going to make it a Tier 2 nation. They shouldn't be able to play Origin. We have no Origin. Have a look at the players, the amount of players Polynesian influence in both teams. There's at least 14 out of both teams that are playing Origin at a high level, and would be they're some of the first picked. You know what I mean? So let's just not try and say, well, if he's going to play here, he can't play for Origin. His kid's 19 years old. He's just hit the scene. He's had more front back pages for just because people are just using his names just to try and get more clout or get more views or something like that. But like this young kid, all he wants to do is represent his family. That's it.
Yep.
It's got nothing to do with him playing fullback. You know what I mean? Like playing it for 60 minutes against the Roosters, and he didn't. And PK thought he didn't play that well, and then he thought, oh, well, I'm going to ring Matt Parris so I can play fullback. Do you actually think that young kid was thinking that after that game?
You know why, Mase? And I'll add to this as well quickly. Why I've on this point, because I got it a little bit later on, but I add to it now. If you're not educated enough, or also watch the game or have footy IQ to realise that no matter if Joseph Sua'ali'i plays on the wing, centre, bench or fullback for the Roosters, Samoa or Australia or New South Wales, he is not going to demand exactly what he wants regardless of if he plays fullback. So one of Kenty's takes was he was underwhelming in the game when he went back to fullback for Teddy. Well, guess what? How many minutes of fullback did he play all year? 0 before then. How many reps do you reckon he would have got at training when you've got the best fullback in the world playing for your club, Mase?
0.
And guess what? They probably had the second best fullback in the world playing there as well, in Joey Manu. So if there was anything to happen to Tedesco, Joey Manu probably went in and
third string fullback.
He's third string fullback at best, and he's a 19-year-old kid. He's got so much more growth at that position. And if you don't think Joseph Sua'ali'i is going to potentially move off the wing and demand more money, you are kidding yourself. So that was an awful take straight away. I was going to hit that a little bit later on,
it
but
was
that's
terrible.
my point.
That's because I watched that whole segment. I'm like, PK, you're so far off.
Yeah.
Like you're way smarter than that. And it's just maybe he's a stubborn dude. Maybe he's just sitting on his, he's sitting there going, you know what, I'm going to stay on this point when man Buzz is sitting there going, dude, you're wrong.
Yeah, Reedy was the same.
Reedy
like
was
almost
the same.
like
Braith was sitting there going, "Fuck, really, mate?"
Braith's mediating it, so he's sort of just
you're still digging this hole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And I just want to end the whole it's not racist. It's, as I said, it's uneducated from PK, and you should do a lot more research on shit like that, because you are offending a whole community and a whole population, a whole area, Polynesia, the whole of Polynesia. So they're filthy.
I've got a take on it, and I'll get to it after this, right? So here we go. I'll give you 2 examples, Mase. Player A and Player B. I'm not going to say their names, but I'm going to give you the stats of these 2 players. Player A, in 2012, at 19 years old, before playing a game of NRL, this kid is caught up in a tug-of-war of 2 clubs, NRL clubs, for his signature. That year, so that was at the start of the year, right at the start of the year, that year he then goes on to debut, but his season is cut short by a lower body injury. Next season in round 4, he returns to the NRL, and after only a handful of strong performances, Freddie identifies his potential, and rewards him with his first representative jersey, a city jersey to play country. However, after a strong season, he goes on to represent his country of heritage in the 2013 World Cup, not being Australia. Player B, in 2020, at 17 years of age, before playing a game of first grade, this player is also caught up in a tug-of-war between 2 clubs for his signature before he has made his NRL debut. That is in the off-season, rolling into the very next season, which is 2021. He then goes on to make his debut in 2021. He has a lower body injury, and his season is cut short. Next season, in round 6, he returns to the NRL, and after only a handful of strong performances, Freddie identifies his potential, and he is rewarded with his first representative experience coming into the extended squad for New South Wales. However, after a strong season, full season after that, he goes on to select his country of heritage to represent Samoa at the 2022 World Cup. By now, you realise probably who Player B is, and if you're smart enough, you probably recognise who Player A is. So for those playing at home, Player A is James Tedesco. Player B is Joseph Sua'ali'i. So what are the difference, Mase? And I'm going to answer my own question here. It's a rhetorical question. The difference is, and this is where it comes back, and I agree with you, I don't think Kenty's racist.
No.
I think he's a proud Australian. Yeah. And the difference between the two, Italy is not a threat to Australia at the World Cup, and Samoa, Tonga, and the Pacific Islanders are well and truly a threat. So when you look at over the dominance of the game, 50 to 60% of the players are Pacific Islanders. What was always, when you look at the modern game now, the game is, it's like quick, play the balls, momentum, all that sort of stuff. What was the knock on probably Islanders, maybe even in your time, just like you guys sort of change the mould that if you hang in there against the Warriors, they're probably going to fade in the second half.
It's a fitness level.
Islanders don't get tired anymore. They're not only just the off the back fence, the one place.
The skill set.
It's the skill set, right? So I was lucky enough to play in France, England, Australia. So I've played with Frenchies, Poms, Islanders my whole career growing up, and Aussies. And the best thing about it is some of us, just based on genetics, have different strengths to whatever the others is. So when you look at Australia now with potentially the guys that aren't going to play for them, the Brian Tottos, the Joseph Sua'ali'is, the Junior Paulos, like those are their momentum guys.
Yeah.
And as good as
Payne Haas is not playing,
and this is not even exactly right. So Payne Haas, and I have a fair idea, not idea, but I reckon Payne might have played for Samoa too if he was injured, but we'll never know. Well. I don't think we'll ever know. But the reason I bring this up is because as good as... So my favourite players in the competition to watch every single week, I love all the Islander boys, love Joey Manu, love all those players. But it's Munster, Nathan Cleary, Latrell Mitchell. What do all those guys have? They play with outside backs that are Pacific Islanders. So for me, Australia are still the favourites for the World Cup, and deservedly so. But it dents them not having the Pacific Islanders in the team. So for me, I think this is where Kenty's coming from, and he might not even realise he's so passionate about wanting Australia to win that it comes across, because I read the comments and people were going, Kenty's racist. I don't believe he's racist.
No.
I think he's a proud Australian.
He's a proud Australian. And to
now,
your point, like
Samoa and Tonga are a threat.
Yeah, Samoa and Tonga, but understand how highly we regard that Australian jersey. It's the pinnacle of the game. You want to play for Australia, or if you can play for New Zealand, because they're those tier one nations in Australia. It's not disrespecting the jersey at all. It's representing our people and our families. It's stronger than the jersey, you know. And and if you are young Joey, you know you're going to get those test jerseys, but you just want to represent your family first. And that's what Kenty and that's what Buzz and Reedy were trying to say. They've sacrificed, their families have sacrificed everything, you know, to get him to this point so he can be here and represent the family, and then he can ascend to whatever he wants. That's the position Sua'ali'i is in. And if you want to blame the rules and all this kind of stuff, this is not on this kid. That's the NRL. That's the world. That's the Rugby World freaking Federation or whatever it is. Change the rules. But like, no one is disrespecting the Australian jersey. That is we hold that in the highest regard. But we want to represent our families and our people first. That's it. I just don't think it's just black and white with us. It's easy. You know what I mean? Like guys like look at Junior Paulo. I don't think he's played a test.
No, I don't think he has, because during his form of probably like being the premier front rower, it's been during COVID where there's been no test.
He would have had a couple in the last couple of years, but this is a World Cup year where you can actually, it's not a one-off test.
Yeah.
So you get to select whatever team of heritage you want. And if you're in the position like Sua'ali'i and most of these other Polynesian boys are, they're picking with their hearts, not with money. They don't get business flights over there. They don't get paid 20 grand a test. They don't stay in 5-star hotels. They're slumming it.
Yeah, so it's the opposite to what he's talking about.
It's totally opposite of what he's not getting what he wants, because you could sit in I've been on fucking 5 kangaroo tours. I know how you get treated.
Junior Paulo hasn't played for Australia yet. No.
Yeah, I don't think Junior has.
He played all the Samoa Tonga, and then
you can't tell me he would not be picked in that squad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Crichton.
For the last 3 years, but there hasn't been any tests.
Luai, Toto, they're first picked in that squad. You know, Big Papa would be in there. I think, you know, Payne Haas would be in there. Nanai would be there. Young Tuolangi would be pushing for a spot. He just declared his spot for return. Nanai might even do that, because once this all started, it'd be like Taumalolo and Fafita in 2017. They set the precedent, and Samoa didn't follow. And then now they're doing it now. All the big dogs are there. Parrish has done a good job. I mean, very critical of Parrish, but he's obviously fixed a few things up. He's got some good people in there. Daniel Holsworth are in there. They're making the right calls. They're calling the players saying, we want you to play. And people have been answering the phone. You know what I mean? Yeah, I want to play. Because I know that he didn't have a good relationship with some of these older players.
All you got to do, Mase, and obviously I've been around as well, how much, and you'd know this, leadership, how much leadership from the big dogs means. So a couple of years ago when it was Tonga, it was Tomalolo and it was Andrew Fafita. Yeah. And Andrew Fafita, I gather he would have been the guy making the phone calls and going, guess what, me and Jace are in, let's do this. And then
next minute.
And then when I heard a couple of weeks ago that Josh Papali'i and Junior Bolo,
when Toto said it first,
yeah,
when Toto was in Origin and he got ostracised for it. It was probably a lesson for young Bryant. Just don't say shit during Origin, because everything's always going to be like amplified by 1,000. Because he said he did that, and then you have a look at an OG like Big Papa. They won the series because they hammered him and saying, "Oh, there's more passion for the Samoan jersey," and worried about that instead of New South Wales, where Big Papa played for Queensland, still made his line for Samoa, but. Does he have less passion? Do you know what I mean? But he just played it smart. Yeah. He won Origin and said, now I'm going to play for Samoa. So that's just the difference in age and a little bit.
And Biz has got no filter. Biz has got no filter. He'll just say whatever.
He's just talking. Exactly. So, lesson learnt there. But
Biz would have known also. He would have known. All those boys have made that decision. They've made that decision way before Origin. This shit, you can guarantee, obviously we learn about it as it unfolds. But there were conversations that would have been held by, I believe, Josh from Queensland and Junior in particular. I think they were the Tomalolo and Fafita of Samoa this year. I said it about 7 or 8 weeks ago on the YKTR Sports Show. They would have spoke to the boys. You could tell the Penrith boys were always in.
All in out there.
Penrith boys were always in. They hang together. Crichton, Dotto, Luai. You knew those boys were always going to play for Sa. They weren't even trying to hide it. But with the other boys, and this is why, again, I keep coming back to that point. When you start ticking them off, and guess what? We've just heard from Magic Murray on the wing for the Cowboys. We still haven't heard from Jeremiah. Yeah. People were placing him in the team. So this is what Kenty's worried about.
Well, of course,
Australia are no longer the dominant team.
And
they are the favourites. They are the favourites. Don't get it twisted.
But don't we want nearly an even playing field? I mean,
it's going to be a good World Cup.
When I played for Australia for 8-9 years, I got beaten 2 tests. Do you know what I mean? And it was against New Zealand and 1 against England. And all the rest, I played 26, but I got beat twice. We won the Four Nations. We got beaten in Four Nations against New Zealand. New Zealand were a powerhouse. Samoa and Tonga were nowhere near it. Do you know what I mean? Now you're talking about 6 to 8 nations that are pretty strong instead of 4 nations. Now we can have a decent World Cup.
How many more people are going to tune in now? I guarantee.
Because we're not going to be so dominant. Because they always say you can always choose 3 Aussie sides. Yeah, well, you're going to have to reach for that 3rd side. Yeah. That's what they're going to have to do now. Because, and as I said, I just keep on saying, reiterating, this is no disrespect to the Australian jersey. There's no disrespect to Australia.
Australia's still favourites. They're still favourites.
But Australia, as I said, we hold Australia. We're born here as well. And we put that at the highest thing, the highest level, personally for me, is playing for Australia. The toughest level is playing Origin. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But the personal one that really hits home is playing for Tonga or Samoa. That's the one. That's what I'm just trying to get into people's brains and try and educate PK about that. That's the strongest one. And when you have an opportunity like the World Cup gives you, you're going to represent your people. That's it.
Especially if you can do it early on, like you did, still represent Australia and give thanks to the country that you've been brought up in, like you did, like Joseph still can potentially do if he likes, and still play Origin. Because I like the tier system.
Of course they're going to.
At the end of the day,
right? To keep the tier system.
When we're competing with rugby union on a level of like ratings and international footy and club, we hammer in club footy obviously, but when it comes to international footy, we're not even close, mate. You know, we've gone over in France and England. And the counter argument, I'm always thinking about, all right, what's devil's advocate of that? We're never going to beat rugby union at international level. So what do you mean? So again, my response, and I'm going to answer my own question, is that do we just give up, right? So if Apple was the best technology in the world or whatever, and Microsoft is second, do you reckon Microsoft just goes, we're never going to beat Apple, so we might as well just kick the feet up?
Samsung,
You've always got to find ways. You've always got to find ways to improve. And for me, this has improved our international game already.
Yep.
We still haven't seen the product yet, but I'm guaranteeing it's going to be better. I guarantee we're going to get more eyes on the World Cup now because Samoa, Tonga, who else? Even Fiji's got a little bit stronger. You know, there are guys like Api Coruscant that haven't fully committed to their decision yet.
Kick
that I
out
haven't seen. Willie made kick out.
The thing is about what does it hurt with these players playing for their home? Their homegrown country, you know what I mean? Like, not homegrown, but their culture, country
Heritage.
of origin. It doesn't hurt the international game because are we trying to grow the international game? Because it doesn't look like it.
We haven't been.
Everyone's been whinging about it. Now it's sort of nearly an even playing field. Probably about five teams out there that probably compete and getting, 6 teams, I reckon.
It helps Kiwis, I'll say that.
It helps New Zealand,
and this is non-biased again, so I'm trying to cover all angles where people look at this and
we're
go,
not,
I'm a Kiwi, this helps us.
It never hurts the rugby league product. Have we put too much onus on State of Origin? That's the pinnacle of a game. It's the weirdest because you have a look at just say any other team like NFL, NBA. It's like the All-Star team. They don't give a shit about Pro Bowls and All-Stars. New South Wales and Queensland is like the All-Stars, but it is the
pinnacle of our game.
It's our prized possession. It's what everyone wants.
Every other code is jealous of Origin.
Everyone,
every other code, so we can't lose it.
How did we? Yeah, and we can't. So we put so much onus on that, and really because we've deflected the international game, going Australia's just the best. Now people are going, well, we want to play for our country of origin, trying to even this shit up. And then people still aren't happy.
That's why I hope they don't change the rules.
Then other people, that's why they haven't changed the rules. Exactly.
That's why I hope they don't.
Yeah, I don't think they will because they want this.
Yeah, this is good.
If we want to grow the international game and get somewhere near union, which I don't think we will because we just don't put enough money and time into it. Yeah. All we care about is the NRL.
We can keep trying.
And State of Origin.
We can keep
but we have to keep trying.
For
so
sure.
we're just trying to build the game. And the more these big name players go and play for Samoa and all these two second tier nations, the better for the international game. The product here in the NRL is never going to die. We have Origin, we have NRL. This is the pinnacle right here in the NRL. It's never going away, but we want to try and build the international game. And this is the only way we can. With these players having the balls, putting their balls on the line and going, you know what, I'm going to play for Tonga, Taumalolo, Fafita. I'm going to play for Samoa, Big Papa. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot to put yourself out there and to not represent the Australian team. Like, people don't understand the sacrifice. You're sacrificing the highest thing in the game personally is that Australian jersey. Understand that if you're looking at it. We're sacrificing that jersey to play for our country of origin, our heritage, and represent our people. It means more, especially in World Cups.
I'll give you an example, right? Here's another one for you, Mase, right? So PK also brought up trying to create his value by going up. Despite how good Samoa are looking, for me, if they played Australia right now with fully fit teams, Australia would probably be $1.30 to Samoa, maybe $3.50. Yeah. And then I still think Australia beat them. And they might beat them by 16, 18. It could even be a scoreline. Like I'm not saying it will happen, but it could even be a scoreline. So if Joseph Sua'ali'i was to choose Australia, end up making it on the wing, and score 3 tries compared to potentially losing against Australia, scoring no tries, getting dominated, how does that help his value? Yeah. He's not doing it because of that. So that was another thing that I just wanted to make sure we get out of the way.
Yeah, I'd love to be at the moment a winger. Coming up on the, Josh Addo-Carr. He slides straight into that Australian team. You know what I mean? He might have been on the outer. You got Tolo and Sua'ali'i. I reckon they would have got those 2 winger spots. Do you carry a winger in the World Cup squad? Probably not, because he only plays wing. Now he's like, well, thank God. You know what I mean? Like if you're a back row or if you're a front rower, you're like, mate, who's going to be the front row for Australia?
But look at that team, mate. Imagine if you end up on that left wing. You got potentially Latrell at Teddy at fullback, Latrell at centre, Munster at 5'8".
Still a great side.
Cleary at halfback, Isaiah Yeo and Cam Murray dictating through the middle.
Liam Martin.
There's a good chance if he played on the wing, he would have scored maybe 2 or 3 tries a game. Yeah, Val Holmes did it. He's done it.
Val scored 5.
5 of the best.
Well, Val Holmes will probably play on the wing.
So to say that his value will go up by playing for Samoa fullback is way off. It's a tack on his credibility. It's got no substance at all. There's no mail to it at all. So he was questioning Reedy's mail. He was going, Reedy, so what's your mail? Have you spoke to him? Have you spoke to him, Kenty?
Who cares?
You haven't spoke to him yourself.
You don't need mail to have that was probably one of the worst takes Kenty's ever had. I think he probably, if he had his time over, maybe he's too stubborn and he wouldn't give a shit. But if he had his time over,
I think he's stubborn. He won't care.
he's a proud Aussie. We're all proud Aussies. like I've represented Australia. It was a pinnacle of my career. You know, like putting that green and gold jersey on. You know, they don't understand that. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, understand the sacrifices that people don't understand that. The sacrifices that your family makes to get over here, to do everything, to give you the opportunities to go to good schools and to go and reach your potential, union, league, whatever it is. And all you want to do is give back. That's all Joseph's doing. Let's not use this kid's name again. He's doing nothing but positive things for the game. He's a good kid, a good role model. He's doing everything great. Let's just throw his name in the mud. It's terrible what you're doing.
100%. All right, just to wrap it up quickly, we hope you understand where we're coming from our end. We are lucky enough to have a platform where we can come on and say these things. By no means do we think this is an attack on Paul Kent personally.
It's not.
This is just our take on it. Hopefully you've learned a little bit from this, and we will see you next time on the YKTR Sports Show. Yep. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the footy.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Well done, boys.